Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and hi to everyone. Thank you for watching this video. I prepared the video is for continue the previous lecture from last week in order to explain or elaborate what should have in the chapter 1, whereas we already know that the chapter 1 is divided in few subsections where we already cover in week 4. The topic that we cover in week 4 are introduction, research background, problem statement, conceptual framework, while in week 5 we cover for research question, research objective, hypothesis. And in week 6, that is next week, we will cover for scope of study, definition of rational, limitation of study, significance of study, and also the conclusions. Now let's start with the topic for week 5. That is section 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7. Okay, 1.5. 1.5 is research question. Research question is a question that a researcher want to answer. Right. Let's change the color. Want to answer or a problem that a researcher want to solve. Right. The idea or the information, the question or the problem need to address in the research question usually is informed in the problem statement. It's already informed in problem statement. There is some idea that's already explained in problem statement that related to the statement that need highlight in the research question. So there is a correlation or relationship or relation between the problem statement and research question. The research question also define the area of interest. The area of interest, but it's not a declarative statement like hypothesis. It's not like hypothesis. Not a hypothesis. Not a hypothesis. Okay, it's not a hypothesis. Okay. Research question usually in a main broad questions or a few questions that need find the answer. Usually, the research question will be around 2 to 3 research questions in the thesis. In the thesis, the research question is depends on the problem statement. Okay, the research question determine the method. Remember, it also determine the method that's going to be used in the study. We not address specifically the method that used in the thesis in the research question subsection, but by reading the research question, as a reader, you will have an initial idea what method that's going to be used in the study. By reading the research question, the readers can get initial information or expected of what method is going to be used in the study. Okay, this is some example. From example 1, the development of the idea in the research question leads the readers to understand that this study will use the OLS method. Right? Okay. Because by reading the term of the multiple regression model, relationship, most and least influencing variables, so from this word, the reader will understand that the researcher is going to use the ordinary least square method. Again, in example number 2, Through the readings of research question, the reader will get some initial idea that the researcher is going to use the VECM method by reading the words in the research question, the wording like co-integration between the variable in the long run, and also the term of long run and short run relationship between the endogenous and exogenous variables shows that the researcher is going to use the method of VECM. Let's continue with research objective. Research objective is a clear, concise, declarative statement which provide direction to investigate the variable under the study or issue. The research objective must be reflects the research question, so that the idea written in the research question must be coherent in the research objective. It also relates with the main issue or gap that highlighted in a problem statement. So from the problem statement to the research question until research objective, they must be coherent. Example, from the research objective, there is an idea that we can get the initial idea that this study is going to use the OLS method by having the word of to develop a multiple regression model. Also, the word of to investigate the relationship also shows that this study is going to use the OLS model, and also the word of to identify the most and least influence variable also shows that this study is going to use the OLS method. Next example is the VECM method. From the words of research objective like endogenous and exogenous, and long run and short run, and also the words of co-integration between variables, it also shows that this study is going to use the VECM method. Right? Okay, next. Okay, now is a hypothesis, research hypothesis. A hypothesis is a formal tentative statement of the expected relationship between two or more variables under observation of study. A hypothesis helps to translate the research problem and objective into clear explanation or predictive of the expected result, outcome of the study. A clear stated hypothesis includes the variable to be manipulated or measured, needs to use method to provide magnitude value. Of course, we want to observe the value of coefficient, so we have to use method. By using the method, we will produce the magnitude value. This will identify the population, for example, to be examined and indicate the proposed outcome for the study. Okay, this is some example for hypothesis if using the OLS method. Okay, you can read through this example later on, and if you have any question, you can ask me. But from here, you can see obviously in the words of the for example, if we have a 3 variable, so the hypothesis need to prepare for each of the variable to from dependent into dependent if the method is OLS method. So like this, mainboard word sector return. Here mainboard is independent, sector return is dependent. Next is influence of entry rate on toward sector return, and also the crisis dummy toward sector return. Sector return is dependent, pembeli ubah bersandar, while the mainboard action rate and crisis dummy is the independent variable of pembeli ubah bebas. Okay, this is example for hypothesis if using the VECM method. In the example here, we can see that the first hypothesis is for the first research question and for the first research objective, where the wording is consistent. Okay. Alright. And for the second hypothesis for VECM method, if you can see here, the wording also consistent, yeah, with the research question 1, objective 1, research question 2, objective 2, and also the hypothesis 2. The wording is consistent. Okay. Alright, so this is also some others example. Alright. So until here, we're going to continue in other subsection of the chapter 1. Like I already stated here, we will continue to scope of study, definition of operational, limitation of study, significance of study, and also the conclusion. Thus, after we reach the subsection of conclusion, meaning that we already done the whole discussion for chapter 1. That is introducing a research proposal. Therefore, in other words, you are ready for preparing the chapter 1 for your mini thesis project. Okay, goodbye and good luck for everybody.